Good afternoon, David Lapp coming to you live from my office here in Lancaster, Pennsylvania this afternoon. Today is August the 28th, 2025. Uh, Wanted to share a little bit today about the simplicity versus modernity and some of the things that we gained and some of the things that we lost. Uh, as I think about back at our childhood, there was no technology. There was no. We didn't even have a phone in the house. No electricity. We lived a pretty simple life, and in a sense, we probably had as much or more than we do now. Because we had family life. We had uh, routines. We had a time that we stood up in the morning. We had time we went to bed at night. There wasn't any of this, early. I mean, sleeping in stuff like that. We were on a dairy farm, so there was a lot of structure around that. Certain time of the day, you would milk the cows, stuff like that. But as I think back, that there was it was a pretty simple life. And then I think about the last 20 years of some of the stuff that we've embraced as a family. The technology, the vehicles, electricity, that kind of thing. Yeah, there's a lot of conveniences that go with it. There's a lot of opportunity for impact, for uh, just a lot of opportunity for to reach more people. Even like this webinar. This podcast. There's no way I could do that. When I was still in the Amish church, but you know the things that I see that we lost was the just a quiet evening together with our family. We still try to do some of that. It is a lot harder than it was back in the day because of all the gadgets that are fighting for our attention. Yeah, we actually had to be intentional if we want to have an evening of just quiet family time. And it's there's a lot of value in that where you just sit around, share ideas, share your life, share your day with people that you love. And I think it's something that we would all do better if we would actually make that a priority. I know in my life it's something that we are working on. It is not by any means perfect, but it is something that we continue to work on. Uh, and just the peace that goes with an evening of no distractions. And but then on the flip side, if you have your world in your hand, if you will, on a gadget, you can connect with people in other states with the push of a button. You can call our parents. Like when we grew up on the farm, our phone shandy was when our phone was in a small building, and it had to be 300 feet from the house. And I know that's not the same of all Amish communities, but the community we were in, the phone shanty had to be 300 feet away from the house, and it was about a 4 by 4 room that you were able to get inside and close the door out of the weather. You did your phone calls. You did what you needed to do. Then you got back to work. And uh, you know, through the winter there was no heat in the phone shanty. During the summer it was hot. You kept the door open, and that was the life that we knew. That was the life that we grew up with. And I know a lot of people that leave the Amish would find that as a hardship or a religious negativity with that. uh, no, I'm not sure why my screen's freezing up there, but well, I think my camera froze up. Now, I know for a lot of people, they look at that life and they see the religious structure that goes with the old order, or the religious church, the Amish church, if you will. But there's also a lot of value that went with that. There's a lot of stability that came with that. There's a lot of values that came with that. There was a lot of community support that came with that, and that's I would say that's probably the biggest thing that I miss is the just the volume of community support that we felt as being a part of the Amish church. But And as we build our friends outside of that, as we learn to live, in the center of God's will. I'm not saying that there's not a lot of that happens in this culture as well, but so yeah, so there's definitely pros and cons on both sides of the coin, and I don't want to say that everything that I learned growing up Amish was terrible, because it wasn't. I actually loved my life, had a lot of fun, as a teenager growing up, and at the time we were milking about 100 cows and in 2 barns for a few years, and it was a lot of fun just taking care of the animals, taking care of the soil, and doing it in a way that there was, we used horses in the field. We didn't use tractors in the field. So, but yeah, it's definitely a different life, and there's pros and cons to both sides of it. And yeah, I also do enjoy my life now, and having the gadgets, having the technology, having the electricity, the cars, that kind of stuff. So yeah, there's pros and cons to both sides of it, and you have to know what you're called to. Uh, you know, there's always ways to increase uh, what you do for God, and if you can utilize what God called you to do and do that in the Amish culture. I'm not going to say that you can't be a Christian and do that, because I know there's a lot of Christians in the Amish culture, and there's a movement happening, and it's pretty exciting.